3, 2, 1. Access granted.
Welcome to the Genius Education Zambia podcast, where we explore the intersection of science, education, and leadership. We'll be exploring how emerging technologies bridge the digital divide. I'm Kaboyambayamba, co-founder and projects director at Genius Education Zambia, and I am your host for today's episode. In today's episodes, we'll be looking at leadership, communication, and collaboration in the digital world, and we are joined by three remarkable individuals from SAP. I won't say too much about SAP, but they are part of the SAP Social Sabbatical Program, and they are consultants working at Genius Education Zambia. Kate, Brian, and Julia, welcome to the podcast. It's so lovely to have you here.
Yeah, thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, so just go into a quick conversation and just get to know each of you a bit more and the amazing work that you do. So could you each please take some time to introduce yourself and your background at SAP and what your role is in the Social Sabbatical Program?
Let me probably start first. And good morning, Cowboy. It's also a pleasure to be here in your podcast. So, SAP is a German software company. So, we primarily sell enterprise resource planning software, but that also includes database as well as some platforms. I'm actually from SAP Philippines, and I'm part of the Global Commercial Finance, and I'm a commercial director in there. What my organization does is that we ensure the customer success is actually sustained for the long term. That is via ensuring that we are actually releasing compliant and profitable contracts. So our primary stakeholders are the CFOs as well as the customer success, which happens to be in internal language, probably would be the sales team. I'm actually managing managers, and I lead a team of diverse and multicultural team members spanning across APJ and Greater China.
Nice to have you on the podcast, Kate. We'll go to Brian.
Sure. So I'm Brian Vance, and first of all, thank you, Genius Education, for hosting us for the last 2 weeks and for the next 2 weeks as well.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you to the American Corner for hosting the podcast. This is a really amazing facility, and I'm glad to be here. One of the very impressive library here. So, and for all the people helping us in the background that nobody can see. So, me personally, I'm from, if you can tell, I'm from the U.S. So I'm from a city called Philadelphia, which is on the east coast of the U.S., where I live right now, and I have my family, 2 daughters and a wife that live there. And I've been with SAP for about 16 years, mostly in finance, though recently I changed into, about a year and a half ago, in the product marketing organization, so we won't get into too much detail what that means. But basically, we try to convey the value of our solutions internally and externally. It's effectively what product marketing does in one finite soundbite. So mostly finance and accounting, though, from my history. A little bit about the Social Sabbatical Program, because you mentioned it. So that's a program that SAP started about 10 years ago, and they realize as a global organization that we are impacting local communities, right? It's not just selling software, it's actually about conveying value beyond the products you sell in local communities. And they set up this program to engage with local social enterprises such as Genius Education.
Yes.
To bring pro bono consulting from what they call the Catalyst program, which are employees that are identified as high potential at the organization, and come to help with very specific problems for these organizations. And Genius Education obviously put their name in and was selected. We were
And we're
selected.
here.
And we're here. So it's a really great program, and we're very honored to be part of it for SAP. We're really excited to be part of this pro bono consulting work with Genius, because we've been super impressed with what Genius Education does, and it's been very exciting and very rewarding. So we'll talk about that later. So that's a little about me and a little about the social sabbatical.
Definitely. We'll get into how Genius got to the Social Sabbatical, but for now, I'll let our last but not least panelist, is it podcastist? Panelist in the podcast, Julia, to just introduce herself as well.
All right, yeah, thank you for having me as well. So my name is Julia Hasslinger. I'm from Germany and also based in SAP Germany in the headquarters in Waldorf. So my role is technology consultant, or technical consultant. Consultant mean I work with the customers, with our customers, with big companies together. The customer do have running SAP landscapes, so huge landscapes already, and they come to us whenever they are changing, whenever they transform their businesses. For instance, they might buy or acquire another company, or they might, yeah, need to restructure their system landscape, and we come into play, um, yeah, reflecting this transformation in their system landscape actually. And as I said, it's more technical, so we're kind of merging data from one system to another. We might split data, so whenever a customer wants to sell part of its business, we might need to split this data out of our systems. And this is basically what I do. Yeah.
Amazing. So you've heard it. Genius is taking part of the SAP Social Sabbatical Program, which is an initiative each of our consultants will talk about in a minute. But then we're so privileged and humbled to have these three amazing consultants here. And I'm also just very privileged to be interviewing them. So fantastic. We are thrilled yet again to have such a talented and passionate team join us on the podcast. And let's get into the gist of everything. So I'll start with you, Kate. You did mention that you are a manager of managers. So you manage quite large team of managers and you help constitute their day-to-day lives. So my question to you is, how do you ensure everyone in the different teams communicate well and work together to standardize the processes and also to automate the tasks at SAP Philippines?
Probably I'll start off looking back to when our organization was formed 2.5 years ago. And if I look at the team size that I had to start with
Yeah.
to my current team size, it actually has doubled. And if we look at the business 2.5 years ago, I could say it has not just doubled, it's probably tripled, which means that there is a huge, significant, I would say, need for scalability. And whenever we communicate, I think aside from communicating what our strategic priorities are, we also need to keep in mind that we're communicating with people. And I guess when you try to communicate with people, you try to communicate it in such a way that it's not something that's coming from you, but instead, how do you want them to receive this communication, right? Or this strategy. And I think you have to communicate that with empathy. And yes, we definitely need to highlight that we share a common goal. It's not just like our own organization. I've mentioned to you earlier that we actually support the customer success board area. And supporting the customer success board area is also supporting SAP to achieve the revenue targets. It's actually working together to this shared common goal that we also define our strategic priorities. And for now, our strategic priorities are automation, process, and people. And it's actually very interesting for me to, and I would say that I'm also proud to say that we never lose touch that there's always this people as one of our priorities, because yes, we have our process, we have our automations in place, whether it's gen AI or machine learning, but at the end of the day there's actually still people involved, right? And since I'm actually leading an organization, I've mentioned the scalability, and yes, we need to automate. We also need to make sure that we're standardizing, we're simplifying and automating, but at the end of the day these are the people that actually supports the business, and we're ensuring that success is not only for the company but also for our own people. So maybe I would actually just share it in 3 words. That is, share what is our common goal. Second is communicate with empathy.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think it's also okay to make mistakes, right? It's a period of transformation, like 2.5 years ago. It's a road for sharing that vision, but at the end of the day it's not really paved to such a way that it has to have a perfect outcome, and there could be some learnings, but I think those learnings would actually help yield better results.
I really love that, and I love how there's so many bad buzzwords like machine learning, technology, AI, but then you also still emphasize on things like empathy, ethics, leadership, because that's what's going to move us forward in the digital space and the digital age. So I'm so happy that we have a leader like yourself, literally showing how there's like two sides of the coin, right? While we automate, we have processes, we have all these tasks, but then we should also be empathetic, share a common goal. And people are still people and not robots. So that's amazing. So I'll
Yeah.
get back to you in a second. Brian, would you want to say
Yeah,
something?
no, I was going to add something to that because, well, I mean, there's two things you said that I thought were really important. One is I think
Yeah.
you were basically saying, Kate, is fail fast,
Yeah.
which is something we need to do. And the other thing I want to say is SAP it's a huge organization. It's 110,000 people, and we sell a lot of different products. And when you're in a technology business, it's critical that all the different functions
Yeah.
understand what's happening and are working in unison. And it's very difficult when you have such a large organization, a large global organization, because not everyone's in the same
Yeah.
reporting line, not everybody's in the same office, not everyone's in the same country. So having all those functions talk to each other, it's not just in technology, it's really in any business, having all those functions, understanding what the goal is and communicating that consistently and clearly is very critical for leaders, because if people are working and they don't understand what they're trying to do and why they're doing it,
Yeah.
you're not going to get results. So that's what I think is one of the most important things, is just over communicating and then encouraging your people to fail quickly, to extend what Kate was saying. Like, don't be scared of failure. There's going to be big failures, of course. You don't want to have the big critical
Of
failures,
course.
but small failures are okay.
Yeah.
And accept that and be okay with it. And that's good. That actually allows for progress.
I think that's refreshing to hear from someone in finance with like all this experience. I think failure is part of the process. Failure helps us to even create better systems and processes. And also, I feel like as a leader, when people see you fail, they also feel better to sort of grow and learn, because then you set the precedence for them to be better people, because now they see you as a human being as well, rather than this like robotic person who's just giving like different, tasks and orders every day. Okay, great. So we'll be back to that conversation. Let's not, I would want to stay there, but we'll move. So I'll get back to you, Brian, since you're already speaking. What led you to finance? I'm really intrigued.
That's a good
What
question.
led you to finance?
So it wasn't a straight line by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that a lot of people that I run into in my career don't necessarily take a straight path. And I think that's a good thing, to be honest with you, because that allows you to step outside your comfort zone and allow for broader learning. And that's kind of the failing quick. It's the risk aspect of it. Sometimes taking a risk allows you to move forward, but that didn't answer your question. So how I got into finance is I actually thought I wanted to be an environmental engineer at one point in time.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I wanted to, not that I'm not environmentally conscious now, but I thought I wanted to actually play more of an active role in it and clean up the environment and make sure we had a sustainable future. It didn't work out. I branched off slightly and started being civil engineer. So environmental engineer and civil engineer are kind of cousins to one another, related. And I quickly realized there's a lot of physics and calculus in engineering, and that really wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So then what I branched into is something that's very math-based as well, which is accounting. And I did that for probably the first 6 or 7 years of my career. I've worked in very briefly in public accounting, worked in private accounting. And if anyone understands what accounting is, it's very routine, it's very repetitive, and that wasn't my personality type. So it's fine, it's very predictable. At the end of every month, you report the books, you close the books, you deal with auditors and so forth, but it can be very rote as well. No offense to anyone who's listening to this as an accountant, it just wasn't for me personally. So, and I saw these men and women that were doing finance. I said, well, that seems more interesting. If you're not familiar with the difference between accounting and finance, because it sounds very similar if you're not in it, the way I describe it is accounting is kind of, for the most part, you're looking backwards, and finance, for the most part, you're looking forwards. So it felt to me at the time that a finance, as opposed to accounting, is you're being more strategic. You're having more of an opportunity to impact the future of the organization and kind of drive growth and be more of that critical business partner to whoever the leaders are in your organization. So I had the opportunity to pivot from accounting to finance, and I did that for probably 15 or 16 years. I did finance, did financial planning, did budgeting, moved into leading finance organizations at SAP. And then I made another pivot, right? I said, I've done finance, I've done accounting for so long. What else can I do? What else can I learn about myself, the organization, and make sure that I create the biggest tool belt, so to speak, with as many tools. I got a hammer, I got a screwdriver, and everything else, so I can continue my career. And I branched into the at the time was called Solution Management Organization at SAP, but it's product marketing, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
And again, it's the same idea. It's always challenging yourself, making sure you're building on a network, making sure you're taking advantage of your skills. And the thing I'd also say, which is really important, that a lot of times you'll look at a job and you'll look at the 10 things that everyone wants on the job, and you'll be like, oh, I'm not qualified for that job because I don't have
Yeah.
those 10 things. It's okay to say, I have 6 of them. Like,
So let
challenge
me
yourself.
take it.
It's
Yeah.
critical you continue to challenge yourself. So that's what I'd say. So that's my meandering path to where
You
I'm
know
at.
what's very interesting is among the three of you, I think all of you have very like what's the word, like very, I
Yeah.
can't find the English word for it,
No,
but I know
straight
it in
path.
vernacular. But it's not really like a straight path in
Yeah.
all your careers, respectively. So, like each of you always, like when you're sharing your stories, I'm always like, oh, there's no like one straight path to actually get to where you want to go to or your career. And I love that among the three of you, like you've each tried out different things, and in some sort of way, like you're still living the initial dream you wanted to get at, but maybe in a very different and diverse setting. So that's also very encouraging, even for the younger people at Genius Education, to see that it's not always like a one shoe fits all. You can actually progress in different paths and get back to what you initially wanted. It's not that if you want medicine, you just stick to that path, and if you don't do it, then you're a failure. You could actually be agile, you could be diverse, you could explore, and you can actually challenge yourself and learn. So that's something I really picked up among the three of you, and it's very inspiring, especially to a lot of young people who sometimes feel and get anxiety to choose what they want to do. So they feel like if they don't do that one thing, then they failed at something, but there's always hope, and you could always just take your path and make it into what you want it to be. So thank you so much for that. So I'll go to Julia. I remember when we first got your profile, Julia, and we saw that you were a mentor and you're big on learning as well. It was something that excited myself and our founder because we do have an e-learning platform that we're working on. So when we saw that you were into what you actually mentioned in your profile, we were like, wow, we really have a lot to learn from you. So my question to you, obviously, now speaking about learning platforms, education and technology and accessibility, my question is, given your experience in setting up learning platforms and mentoring initiatives, what role do you think technology plays in making education more accessible and engaging for learners and scholars?
Very good question. By the way, I was also impressed when I read your profile and when I
Thank
read
you.
your website and what you're doing, because that's exactly what I like to do, what I really love to do. And when you say technology in learning, I think technology plays a major role in today's world. You could never connect so many people without
Yeah.
technology. I mean, the world is constantly changing, and when I think about learning, I facilitated trainings online as well as in-house trainings. But in today's world, in this global network, you need technology to bring
Yeah.
people together and to also make learning accessible for other parts of the world. To also exchange, I did mentoring only via technology, via
Yeah.
online platforms. I could never ever have connected to those people without technology. So on the other hand side, of course, technology needs to be accessible. So there needs to be a basic technology available. That's the downside. And technology can never ever replace human interaction. That's what I also see. But technology supports and technology brings people together and brings learning, yeah, to all of the people who wanted actually to learn. So
Yeah.
that's why I think it's super important.
And I think it's also very important, given our African context, also just for our listeners to also know that Africa does have like a huge digital divide or gap. But I feel like there's a lot of, for lack of a better term, hope, and there's a lot of progress being made in that arena and agenda. And I feel like now more than ever, we have a lot of like mentoring initiatives happening online that makes it very accessible to young leaders. And also hopefully we hope that the people who are getting mentored can also create more like programs and initiatives that actually help to bridge the digital divide. Okay, so from the three of you, we've covered science, education and leadership. But now I actually want to get into the social sabbatical program. So, like you had explained, it's basically a program about 5 to 6 weeks long. It's been around for about 10 years, and social enterprises like Genius Education Zambia are picked, and different consultants, pro bono consultants, come, and we as host organizations have you work with us every day, so you're like our an official interns but consultants as well. And it's been such an amazing experience. First of all, because we have 3 different countries in our office every day, so we get to learn about the Philippines, the USA, and Germany every day. But I think I would like to know from each of you, and please chip in where you can if you have any highlights and memories, because now it's just like an open discussion. But I'll start with Kate. What's been your experience with the social sabbatical program, and how do you want to use this experience when you get back home the next 2 weeks?
I'll probably start off with something serious. Yulia mentioned that technology actually bridges everything, right? And how it supports even our future.
Yes.
And you've mentioned about the gap in technology here in Zambia.
Yeah.
What I do admire is the resiliency of its people. Despite the power outages,
Yeah.
despite the internet connection problems that we have been experiencing for the past 2 weeks that we've been here, I have never seen such resilient and amazing co-founders, for example,
Thank
for
you.
Genius. You know, your advocacies, your values, and your mission for your country is truly impressive. And I feel like these challenges that you have been seeing did not stop you from trying to pursue a better future for your country. And that's something that I have really learned and appreciated for the 2 weeks that I have been here. And it continues to amaze me, really, because we do know that technology in the future will be helping lives. And
Yeah.
I would like to tie that with SAP's purpose, which is to help the world run better and improves people's lives. Initially, I was thinking it in the context of selling software. Yes, we do sell software to companies, conglomerates, and this would actually help them run their business, making sure that they're also profitable. But one thing that was never highlighted before is sustainability. And now that we talk about sustainability, I really probably am impressed at how SAP's corporate social responsibility has also made it possible for us to provide pro bono consulting
Yeah.
to social enterprises and organizations like Genius Education Zambia. The learnings that I do take with me is not something just that I take with my team in SAP, in the organization, but it's also a realization that each one actually has a role to contribute, right? Whether it is via your company's purpose or out of the corporate social responsibility that you feel on your own, individual responsibility. But probably also wanted to share that whenever we talk about transformation and technology, there's also this digital transformation
Yeah.
that is really happening. And this is something that we probably need to continue to advocate that, in the world of Gen AI and
Yeah.
the technology, I really feel that technology would really help improve people's lives. So one of my learnings here in Zambia is, of course, that resiliency is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Collaboration is key. I have never, felt more proud to, working alongside Brian as well as Julia.
Yeah.
And it's scary at first. That's probably how I would share it because I've never been a consultant and I didn't know how to, do consulting. And bringing some of my skills in Genius actually made me realize there are some skill set that I probably have not really, I would say, thought of before, like building a business model for Genius, right? Maybe
Yeah.
within the rules and comforts of SAP, I've never
didn't have done
really thought too much about it. Like we deal with business models all the time, but at Genius, like creating a business model and also helping scale your business, trying to
Yeah.
identify the three horizon model, working with Brian and Yulia. I feel like whatever contributions that we have, it's definitely something that we also realize
Yeah.
at the end of the day that there's so much to learn. It's not just helping you, but it's also Genius helping us realize something for ourselves that, yeah, I never thought that I could do that. And at the end of the day, I haven't mentioned it maybe to some, but I think you know that I am also a mother.
Yeah.
So I am raising change makers of my own. So I do have three teenagers. And I take this learning with me, hoping that they also learn that the future is for these younger generations to make, right? And going back to SAP's purpose, help the world run better and improves people's lives. We're doing it not just for SAP, we're doing it not just for Genius, but we're doing it for even the youth and the future generation.
At Genius, we have a tagline. I don't know if we've ever told you about it. Our hashtag actually is Smile at the Future. So every time we have an event, we hashtag Smile at the Future, because for us, just speaking to resilience and internet outages and all that stuff, for us, we see those problems as a chance for us to actually create solutions. Because then if we have all these problems, then it means that we need to do better as youth. And seeing that the youth are the future, so a lot of what we do is empowered by that. We really see Africa as such a creative and innovative hub. We see it as such a futuristic continent as well. So a lot of the resilience also comes about because we really smile at the future, because we're always thinking like if we can get as many learners to get to innovate, to get to create, and to get to experience technology, then we'll have so many older people who actually create a future of Africa that we can all be happy about and smile at. So we always hashtag that, smile at the future, in most of our posts, because we believe that the future is bright, and because young people are the future, we are happy and we are smiling at the future. So just to speak to that. Okay, so I'll get to Brian. What has been your experience with the sabbatical program?
Yeah, so I'll touch on two things. So I'll kind of talk about my motivation a bit for wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And so the application process, we have to write an essay. So I'll kind of touch on that
I was
a
shocked
little bit.
about that, by the way.
You
I,
what?
I was shocked that you guys actually apply
Yeah.
to actually get in. So that was very
Yeah,
impressive.
there's a application, interview, and a essay, and a full selection process for it. So it, what I touched on in my essay was that, especially somebody who's my age, I've been around for a little while, and this far along in your career, you realize that I think, for lack of a better term, kind of life gets away from you a little bit, and you want to do more in your local community in
Yeah.
particular. You know, you want to help. I mean, where I come from in Philadelphia, there's people that need help just like everywhere else in the world, but kind of life gets in the way a little bit. And I heard about this program. I said, well, this is a great opportunity for me to force myself for 4 weeks, because you're completely dedicated to a program. It didn't have to be in Zambia. It didn't have to be in any other country. It could have been in Philadelphia, to help with the social enterprise and make sure that you're actually contributing back and giving back to society, whatever that means globally. And that was super important for me. And I hope what I take back out of this is actually continue it in my
Yeah.
local community. It's really tough, though. Like I said, it's, you know, things get in the way. You have friends, you have family, you have commitments, you have other things, you have entertainment, and things get in the way. And it's just, I hope this becomes a forcing function,
Yeah.
that I get back involved in those things and make sure that you're giving back in your local community. I think giving back globally is super critical, but giving back locally is a way to do that. So that's one thing I hope I get out of this. What I'm getting out of this in real time, though, is the other thing I want to accomplish, which was sort of what I was talking about before, kind of that
Yeah.
continuous learning journey. Similar to Kate, I'm not a consultant, right? I'm a finance, I'm an accountant guy. The topic, we were talking about finance with Genius, was sort of in my comfort zone, but conveying that and implementing that and consulting on that, it's not something I've done either. Working with the social enterprise nonprofit, I've done audits of that. I've never worked in those organizations
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
So that was different for me too. And that's a learning journey as well. And then, you know, the obvious is there was an opportunity to come to Zambia. I want to learn about the people, the culture, that I probably would not have gotten experience before. I mean, you can go someplace for a week, but to experience the people, the culture,
Yeah.
you have to embed yourself in it. And this was a truly unique experience to do that. So there's a social aspect, there's the personal learning aspect, and then there's the personal discomfort that has to
Yeah.
come with that too. So I hope I get all that when I go home. We're halfway in. I think I'm getting that. I hope we're conveying value too. So that's my goals from all of this. So
Nice, nice. That's a lot of learning for I think all of you. And I think
Yeah.
even the first time we met you and you were pitching, you all did say that you did want to learn and being part of such a huge global company with 110,000 employees and coming to Zambia. I'm in a setting like Genius Education Zambia where we are starting to scale up our business and we're just 10 staff members. I think that's a very huge shift in terms of leadership and just also environment. So it's been nice. I don't know if I can say that, seeing you learn as well because we're very nervous when we heard that you were coming. I remember looking at all your CVs and I was like, how are we going to get through this? But it's been so empowering, challenging, not like in a bad way, but in a good way to make us see what we can do better and also learn from you, even as you learn from us. Also sharing about our cultures. It's also been really nice hearing about your different places and also sharing about Zambia and everything else. But I won't speak too much. We still have Julia to get to. So what's been your experience in Zambia in the SAP social sabbatical?
So I can totally agree what Kate and Brian said already. And the minute we came into your office, we saw those smiling faces. That was exactly what you mentioned. You were so open-minded. You had an open mindset, a positive mindset, and that caught me right away. So I really felt that fire and I was super excited to work for you. And what I also really appreciate is that we have a deeply open communication. We had a lot of icebreaker, team building
yes.
activities, which were quite emotional sometimes. So what I really want to get back home is to have such an open communication, to also talk about feelings, about mistakes we made whatsoever, to really learn from each other's path that we have. And what I also wanted to bring back, stay curious, ask questions as much as you can, learn from each other, embrace also differences because everyone is fine as he or she is. And the last point I learned, and that what I want to definitely to bring back in educating also others, is the creativity you have.
Yeah.
So learning directly corresponds with creativity, and when you're creative and when you let your creativity just flow, you can even have much more ideas together than if I, as a kind of a teacher, would give you the straight answer right away. So that's basically my learnings, and I'm very grateful that I'm here and that I can work with you.
I'm so happy to hear that. And we hope we met your expectations, by the way. Yes, and that you've had a great time here in Zambia. So
far, you got 2 more weeks. So
Yeah.
we have 2 more weeks. I have more surprises up my sleeve. So
Okay.
be ready for them. But yeah, it's been very nice speaking to the three of you and just getting to know you better and also sharing what we've experienced in the past 2 weeks with our community as well, our listeners as well, because we really wanted them to sort of hop on onto the journey and get to see how leaders in technology communicate, lead, and also just the great work that you're doing as pro bono consultants and just helping social enterprises like ourselves just scale up and be better, really, as people, firstly, and also at an organizational level. So I think that's it from us. You've heard from Kate, Brian, and Julia, our SAP consultants. But before we actually go, and I won't ask you to speak too long, I just want you to describe Zambia in one word. Just one word. Like, what comes to your mind when Zambia is mentioned? I'll
I
start
could
with
go
Kate.
first.
Yes.
Shima.
that's a good one.
Yeah, very good Shima.
Very good,
Yes.
Shima. We actually told you that you'd get addicted by the second week. So I'm happy that
Yeah.
our hypothesis has been proven correctly.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, one word for Zambia.
Oh my goodness. Friendliness. Yeah.
No, we do have a reputation
Yeah.
for that. We actually do. Julia?
So my word would be happiness, because I
Happiness.
see lots of smiling faces here.
Yeah, no, we do. The jokes, the friendliness, and then Shima.
And then Shima, of
So
course.
there you have it from us. Thank you for joining us on this podcast episode where we had our SAP consultants from the Philippines, USA, and Germany join us and share their experiences about leadership, communication, and innovation in the digital world. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's it from me, your host, Kaboyamba Yamba.